I sincerely hope you and your loved ones shared an exceptional Thanksgiving this past week. Speaking of exceptionalism, it's interesting how this idea has become something of a modern litmus test, i.e., if you believe America is truly exceptional, then you're likely to be a conservative Republican or perhaps a centrist Democrat. If, on the other hand, you see America through the lens of colonialist exploitation, you're likely to be a further left liberal. This difference, perhaps as much as any other, goes a long way toward explaining the deep political chasm in our country today. Hi, I'm Todd, and I've had the good fortune to live the American dream and to watch that dream become a reality for many others. These podcasts and my free Substack newsletter are my way of passing on some of what I've learned along the way. Barack Obama once commented, "I believe in American exceptionalism, just as I suspect the Brits believe in British exceptionalism and the Greeks believe in Greek exceptionalism." Conservatives have often cited this quote as evidence that Mr. Obama did not really see America as truly exceptional. But he also said, "I'm enormously proud of my country and its role and history in the world. And if you think of our current situation, the United States remains the largest economy in the world. We have unmatched military capability, and I think we have a core set of values that are enshrined in our Constitution, our body of law, in our democratic practices, in our belief in free speech and equality that, though imperfect, are exceptional." End of quote. Of course, only Mr. Obama knows how he really feels. But maybe, just maybe, his comments can be taken as an encouraging sign that the vast majority of the country is not as far apart as recent divisions make it seem. Regardless of Mr. Obama's real feelings, I believe this to be the case. In fact, I believe today's divisions are more a function of the disproportionate influence of the far left on traditional media, academia, and the most vocal part of the Democratic Party than they are a reflection of how most Americans really feel. Further, even this division within the Democratic Party is a relatively recent phenomenon. When I was growing up, my parents were teachers and Democrats, and the vast majority of my own teachers had similar political leanings. Nevertheless, nearly every one of them believed deeply that the United States was the greatest country in the history of the world and that capitalism was far superior to socialism. And these beliefs were well founded. Over the previous century, we had fought to end slavery and grown to become one of the world's leading economic and military powers. And because of capitalism's historically unique ability to drive economic growth that was not dependent on territorial conquest, we were then able to use our powers to help defend the rest of the free world in two world wars and the Cold War, all without the expectation of territorial gain. If this isn't exceptionalism, what is? During the 1960s, what was then thought of as the New Left arose to challenge a number of aspects of our system, including free speech, the Vietnam War, race relations, and women's opportunities. In each of these areas, they made meaningful contributions toward helping create a better version of ourselves. But because this part of the left had not yet taken control of key institutions like education and traditional media, and because they had not yet become the driving intellectual voice of the Democratic Party, most mainstream discussion arose from a common belief in our country that enabled Americans to debate from a similar vantage point. In other words, most of us could at least talk to one another about the important issues of the day. Which leads us to Trump's meeting with Mamdani last week and brings to mind Kipling's famous phrase, "East is east and west is west, and never the twain shall meet." Interestingly, like Obama's exceptionalism quote, these words are also often taken out of their full context, which is, "O east is east, and west is west, and never the twain shall meet, till earth and sky stand presently at God's great judgment seat. But there is neither east nor west, border nor breed nor birth, when two strong men stand face to face, though they come from the ends of the earth." End of the quote. So the Trump-Mamdani meeting was especially interesting in the way Trump welcomed his socialist counterpart to the White House, magnanimously deflected reporters' attempts to stir up divisions between the two, and at least opened the door for dialogue and cooperation. Contrast this with the way the far left has tried to cancel Trump and his pro-America supporters by Nazifying them in a way that virtually precludes any dialogue or opportunity to work together. None of which is to suggest that Trump isn't often confrontational, provocative, and even eager to push the limits of presidential power. But what we see happening over and over again is that hostilities emanating from the far left often give Trump little choice but to push the boundaries of executive power in order to get anything done, which the left then uses to convince themselves that, indeed, their charges of imperialism were justified in the first place. And so, to quote an old ditty, round and round we go, and where it stops, no one knows. The core issue here is that the far left sees Trump as an agent of regime change who is trying to roll back what has now become their decades-long effort to shift our self-image from that of an exceptional, if imperfect, country founded on the most widely beneficial political economic ideas ever created, to a vision of our country that is so awash in original sin that much of the system, if not the whole thing, needs to be torn down and rebuilt. And lest you think this is overstating things, consider New York Times columnist Ross Douthat's recent Interesting Times podcast interview with a leading far-left intellectual titled, "He Has a Plan for the Left. It might involve overthrowing the Constitution." End of the title. But the far left's attack on our founding ideals leads to a number of important questions. First, why would we recreate a country that, in spite of its at times tragic flaws, has helped lift far more people out of poverty and done more to protect freedoms both at home and internationally than perhaps any other country in history? And why wouldn't we, as Martin Luther King suggested in his "I Have a Dream" speech, focus instead on simply extending our founding values to all of our citizens? And why would we follow the far left in trying to destroy such a country, only to then rebuild it in the image of others that, whatever their merits, have never come anywhere near what we have in helping as many people as we have? With these thoughts in mind, let's finish our Thanksgiving week with a short, original verse that came to mind as I was preparing this discussion. "We walk upon these hallowed grounds where extraordinary ideals still resound, with enlightened brilliance that showed the way past the trails of tears from ideals betrayed. But the torch long lit atop Lady Liberty has long shown freedom's light for the world to see. And to this day, lest freedom fall, we strive to preserve and extend those ideals for one and for all." I'm Todd. Thanks for your interest. If you found this helpful, please subscribe and recommend it to at least one other person. If you'd like to learn more and to find links to my free On Wealth and Progress newsletter and my book, please visit my website, toddsheetswriter.com. Thanks again, and have a great day.